20 something minutes. So if you get questions, pop them in the chat. But what are we actually trying to do? So we have, for the last 6 months, been really changing up the way we do a lot of the things that we do. And I think it's really important that when you do these big changes, you take the time to work out why you're making the changes that you're making. Are you changing it because the old way doesn't work? Excuse me. Are we changing it because there's a more effective way to do things? Is it because your business model's adapted? Is it because your industry's changed? Is it because of the economy? What is the main reason that we are going off and making the change? And I'll tell you exactly why we are doing it for us. For us, for me, the reason we were doing the big change is we suddenly found that there were certain industries out there that actually we could really, that's better, get a lot of results with without having to go for a really long lead cycle. And it's one of the most important parts in and around with when you're selling and in and around sales. I had a company recently and they were like, we want to focus on the top 150 XYZ companies to get as our clients. But the reason they were doing that was because of the value of the sale. And that's great. The issue that you then have is that the value of the sale, although it is high, there were about 9 different hoops that they would have to jump through to get the sale in to start with, which therefore meant by the time they had built the pipeline up and got the deal, they could have made 2 or 3 times as many deals, but a quicker turnover by going for something with a quicker lead cycle. So then we were looking at myself, I was looking at a similar around where we were. And we like to work with companies that have longer cycles, sure, but typically the 1-2 call closes. So the services and products that are over sort of 2.5K, and they would typically either organically generate a lead, cold call generate a lead, or maybe have a paid ad. First call, triage, appointment setting, sale, similar one out there. So we went off and we were looking at where are some of the big changes in different industries out there. And we've come up with a list of about 7. One of the areas we have to make sure that we are looking at is how quick for us we can get an impact for our clients. So, for example, a space that's been great for me recently is solar. Solar companies are great because a lot of those companies, they've been in the electrical space or somewhere similar. They're established, but they've realized that by pivoting into something like solar, rechargeables, that type of area, solar panels, they can actually sell a higher ticketed product with their experience in a shorter time frame. The downside being for a lot of those companies, they haven't necessarily got the sales skills or sales systems in place to do that at a high level with a high conversion. Hence where for us, that became a really good opportunity because it meant that those companies saw the gap. They saw the opportunity to actually build out these businesses in a more effective way. So then we've gone off to the drawing board and we've worked out what are the other industries that are out there that are similar, that we can actually massively impact. So taking companies from 30K a month to 150K a month, great return. If you look at what they pay us, getting started for under $3,000, to then go from 30K a month to 150K a month, it's a great investment for them. It's a good time frame. It's a good lead cycle for us. So when you're looking at your own business, you've got to look into these types of things because a lot of people aren't. They're looking at selling into places that they want to sell into, but they're not looking into, is it the place that's going to be the most effective for them to sell into? Is it the most effective way for you to do the business? It is not always just because it's always been done that way, but it makes sense. And it makes such a difference. This is why when you see a lot of the content that we post, a lot of the conversations that are being had, a lot of the ads that are now going live. All of those areas are focused around who are the companies that we can see a fast increase in revenue in the shortest amount of time. Because here's the other part that most people are forgetting. If someone hires me for a service, think about it for your own business. If I know that inside the first 7 to 14, maximum 21 days, they would see an uplift in the amount of revenue that they have, it is easier for them to make a decision. Because they're like, okay, cool. I pay this now, and in 7 to 21 days, I'm going to have more than that in my bank, in Flintstone terms. So that's an easier way for someone to make a decision. So then what did we have to do? And the reason I bring this up is just to say what we're doing so that you can go and do something similar in your own business. So for example, for me, if I want to help someone make money in 7 to 21 days, we've got to look at what's their current lead flow, how many leads do they get come in, what's their current process. We actually look for companies that are pretty inexperienced around their sales skills, because actually if there's someone who's already operating at the highest possible level, they might take a little bit longer to get those first deals over the line. Where if we've got people where we know that they're making innocent mistakes that they don't even know they're doing, and we can rectify that, it becomes far easier. Hey, Alex. So whether you're here on Insta, whether you're here on TikTok, whether you're here on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, within your business model now, you've got to be able to look into it in a better way of where are those blocks currently? So we'll carry on within the solar space. There's other areas we're doing great in as well. For example, we've got some companies on a longer cycle, people like recruitment. We've got a great company we're working with now where we knew that they wouldn't get a quick turnaround in deals because pipeline and conversion takes longer. They can get the jobs and all that jazz, but the whole cycle for when they get paid takes longer. So now we've got 2 avenues. We're fishing for the whales, the bigger companies that might spend a huge amount of money with us, but there'll be a longer cycle and they'll work with us for a year. And then we have the companies that we can help get a faster and more effective revenue flow inside of 7 to 21 days. Now, the reason we do it in that way is I posted about this. I don't know if it's today's post or tomorrow's. If you've been in a relationship and you've just been cheated on, you're automatically going to be more nervous around the behavior of someone else. Exactly the same in business. If you've hired someone for a service and they're saying to you that it could take 3 months to get an increase, for those 3 months, you're living in a real place of uncertainty about that person, about the revenue, about what's going on. So it makes it harder to make that decision because you're like, I've got to be uncertain for the next 3 months. Whereas if we work with companies and we say, hey, you do this with us, inside of maybe 7, but as high as 21 days, we're going to be able to make you an extra 5 grand, 10 grand, 50 grand, 80 grand, whatever we've worked the numbers out to be. It is easier for them to put that level of trust into us because in that time frame, they know how long they're waiting and what they can expect as their fast activating wins. And most people, what they're actually doing when they're selling a product, when they're selling a service, they're focusing on that end result. But if you can get someone a quick win, a fast activating win, which proves that what they have done by working with you was a right decision, that lowers their level of resistance, increases the level of flow, increases the level of belief, and it's far easier to move forward. Because if you think about the timeline of someone working with you, if I go, okay, we're going to start here and we're going to work together for 6 months, and there's cloudiness around how long it's going to take, it's harder to make that decision. But if I say, hey, we're going to work together for the next 6 months, 4 months, whatever, but in this next 7 days, because you've got A, B, and C, we can X, Y, and Z, and that should, in the next 7 to 21 days, give us between these parameters. Now it's far easier for someone to make a decision because it's not investing into the 6 months. There's a parameter of expectation behind what they are planning and what they are expecting to get. And if you can go, worst case in the next 21 days, we'll make at least this. Best case scenario, we might make this. And they're happy with those parameters. It is far easier for them to make that decision. And that's what's made my life a hell of a lot easier. Because now when we're having a conversation, we can just focus on the long-term play, the short-term fast activating results, and then move it forward. So then think about it with your own business. What are the things in your own business now that can give you the fast activating wins? What are the things in your business now that are adding levels of resistance in the sales process without you maybe even realizing it? It is so important to take the time to do that overview. This is why when people work with us in conversations to clients, the first thing we do is we send them 20 questions, and it's like a know your client form. We will then go off and we get we've got a couple of researchers, and they will go and research the company that's hiring us from a prospect point of view. And they'll go, if I was a prospect, what would I find if I searched this company? If I looked for this, if I found this, who would be their competitors? What does it look like? How does it feel? From a complete amateur's overview. Because a lot of us within our businesses, we wear it almost like a bit of a badge of honor of all the stress and strain that you've gone through. But your prospect doesn't see any of that. They don't know any of that. When someone meets you for the first time, they are meeting you there and then. They don't know the baggage. They don't know the good. They don't know the bad. They don't know how trustworthy you are. They're just meeting you right now. And it is so important to make sure that that first impression brings them to a place that you want. So, for example, if someone's working with me, one of the earliest stages we want to know is how many leads you get. What's your lead in to appointment ratio? What's your appointment to sales meeting? What's your sales meeting to deal? What's your follow-up conversion? Because if we know those stats, and then we can times that by the amount of people that they've got and their stats, we can go, okay, you're at this stage. The industry standard is here. We think we could get to here. Here's a timeline of where we'll go. And here's an expectation of what you could see. That becomes far easier for someone to buy into because now they can see the path we're walking. So whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Insta, whether you're on TikTok, take the time to work this stuff out. What is that timeline from someone buying from the moment they've handed over money to seeing that fast win, and then the timeline all throughout the rest of the time they're with you? We should be at the stage now that we know exactly what is happening from their point of view all the time. Because actually, people buying from you, it is not always a comfortable experience. They are nervous, they are fearful, they are worried, they have got concerns. And that's because we're sat in a place now where so many people are getting fed empty promises. These guarantees of do this, and if it doesn't happen, we'll give you your money back, blah, blah, blah. Most of us don't believe in a lot of those guarantees. Most of us out there, we want to just have a solid conversation, understand what the worst case scenario is, understand the timeline, understand what to expect, when to expect, and how to expect it. And then we can move ourselves forward. So if you're going to go out this week, Insta, if you're going to go out, morning, Steve, morning, if you're going to go out TikTok, if you're going to go out YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and do something today, when you're having a conversation with someone, put your ego to one side and think, what could that person think right now? Could they think this is a load of BS? Could they be thinking this isn't going to work? Could they be thinking, dickhead? Are we going to think this is another fat Danny Dyer lookalike? What are they going to think? Don't bring your ego into it, because people are going to have fears. They're going to have misconceptions. They're going to have misunderstandings. They'd have been fed misinformation. They've met people like you from a different part of your industry that gave them the wrong experience. And it's so important to realize that the misconceptions, fears, and beliefs that people have are often the barriers for them working with you. Because no one walks around today and says, I know things and I'm wrong. Everything that we hold as a belief, we believe it to be true. And for a sale to happen, a change in belief often has to happen. A change in perspective has to happen. So by us just going, here's my product, it's great, buy it, it's not going to work. I've got to help that person have a new perspective from their point of view, from their eyes. Their POV has to change, whether that's a want, whether that's a need, that's a desire, whether it's a belief, whether it's perspective. There has to become a shift for that person to take action. And if you don't give them that perspective shift, that want shift, that pain shift, that belief shift, you're just saying, here's a logical reason to do it, do it. But actually, they need to have a perspective, belief shift to take that action confidently and competently. And we're doing this today. So at 9:30 every Monday, we do our sales accelerator call, which is a 1 hour call for all my clients. We have about between 20 and 50 people on it live, and about 130 people watch it back, I think, on our paid subscription. And we're talking today about conviction. We're talking about intuition and how it plays into the sales process. And I'll give you a real prime example. The majority of us out there have been in a process at some point in their life where someone has told you something and they said it so convincingly, we just believed it, and it turned out to be a load of BS. But their conviction held them through. So it's really important that we take the time to do it. I'm literally got to go now because I've got another call before our 9:30 meeting. We're going to be back trying to get more lives in 2 or 3 times a week to try and get tuned in. Set your notifications so that you know when we do go live. And if you want to join in, you want to come to any of the programs, you want to get in touch and get some advice, drop me a DM. The team are always here to help. All right, cool. Talk to you later. See ya.